Hello everybody, how's it going? Now that we've done all these exercises in Excel, we're ready for the next step and we're going to apply what we've learned in theory to actual practical problem. So I want you to follow along with me and we're going to read the questions together and then maybe I'll give a hint or two on how to get started. And then I want you to do each exercise by yourself, at least attempt the exercise by yourself to get some proper practice. You might be tempted to skip ahead to the answer, but that's not a good idea. We want to make sure that your brain is crunching along and doing some actual work because that's the best way to learn. That's the way it's gonna stick. Try it yourself first. If you don't manage, then look it up on the internet or use the book to help you. And then if it still doesn't work, then let's have a look at the solution together. Here is a table of contents giving an overview of where to find which solution. By the way, even if you manage in solving the exercise yourself, it's still worthwhile to have a look at the solution. Because I sometimes give multiple possible solutions, or I give some extra information, and that extra information or those other solutions might be helpful for you too. By the way, sorry for the bad video quality. I kind of messed up when recording it and I don't have time or energy to record it again. Okay, before we get started, let me just very quickly talk about which software I'm using. I'm using LibreOffice Calc. I recommend that in the exam you actually use Excel, Microsoft Excel, because it seems like the exam was written with Microsoft Excel in mind, so people doing it on Microsoft Excel would probably have an advantage. That said, LibreOffice Calc is really awesome software, which is almost as good as Excel, only it's completely free. And because it's completely free and it's available on Macintosh, Windows, and Linux, it's accessible for you to study at home. So if I was you, I would study at home on LibreOffice, but make sure that you also study at school because you never know on the exam. Something might come up that LibreOffice cannot handle very well, but that Excel can handle well. So in short, for the exam, I recommend Excel. For personal use and for studying for the exam at home, I recommend LibreOffice Calc. So let's get started. Okay, step 1, open the files, list of all students and list of all IT students. And save list of IT students in an appropriate file format. It's an easy one to start off with. I want you to pause the video and I want you to try it yourself. I downloaded the 2 files on my computer and I'm gonna open it by right-clicking, and here I can choose Open with LibreOffice Calc. Another thing you could do is start up LibreOffice Calc or Excel first, and then go to File, Open, and open it like that. So let's open allvideos.csv first. And here we have, if you're on LibreOffice, you have this import thing. And I want to make sure that the values are separated by commas. Here we see a preview of what we're coming in. And it's also best to put in detect special numbers. So this is what I was talking about before. I was doing a past paper once and something went completely wrong and I had no idea what. And I realized that's because I had imported the data without selecting detect special numbers. If you're on Excel, you don't need to worry about this. But if you're on LibreOffice, make sure you click this. So I'm going to click on OK. And that's going to open all these. I see I've got a student ID. I've got a name. I've got a yes or no value to see whether this student is going to night school or not. We see the date of birth, we see the year of enrollment, we see the gender, and we see the number of modules that each student has completed. So let's also open the other one too and make sure we have comma selected, and also make sure we have detect special numbers selected. And here we see a list of student numbers. And the question is simply to save it as an appropriate spreadsheet file. That's what I recommend too. The moment you start working on the file, you save it immediately as an XLS or as an ODS in this case. Why? And the thing about CSV files is if you save it as a CSV file, it's going to lose all the formatting and it's going to lose all the special things like filters and stuff which you added. And then you'll get a big fat 0 on your exam. You really don't want to do that. So the very first thing I'm going to do is save it as a spreadsheet file. I'm just going to click on Save As. And in the file type, I want to choose ODF spreadsheet, which is a .ods. If you're on Excel, you're going to want to choose Excel 2007 onwards, which is a .xlsx file. I'm going to choose ODF. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Step 2. Insert a row in row 2. Delete the contents of cell A1. Freeze panes so that rows 1 and 2 and column A and B remain fixed. In cell B1, write date, and in cell B2, write type of evaluation. Embolden cells B1 and B2. Set the width of columns B to exactly 1.4 inches. I don't think there's anything too tricky over here, so pause the video and let's solve it. I'm gonna wait here for a bit until you're ready, and when you're ready, come back here and let's have a look at the solution together. Okay, welcome back. Let's do it. First of all, insert a row in row 2. It's easy. We just click here on row 2 to select the entire row, right-click, insert rows above. Good. Delete the contents of cell 8-1. Easy peasy. Select it, delete. Freeze panes so that rows 1 and 2 and columns A and B remain fixed. 1 and 2, A and B. I need to select this cell and go to View, Freeze rows and columns. And now, as you can see, as I scroll down, no matter how far I scroll down, I can still see the 2 header rows, and I can still see the columns. If you're in Excel, you go to View, Freeze Panes, and then you can select which you want to freeze. Okay, what's next? In cell B1 and B2, we write date and type of evaluation, and then we make them bold. So I'm going to write date over here, evaluation, and I'm going to select both of them. I can just do it using the keyboard. I'm just going to use the arrow keys to get to B1, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and while holding down Shift I press the downwards arrow, and then I'm going to press Ctrl B for bold. If you don't remember the short key for bold, you can click it up here, or if you're on Windows, you got to go to the Home tab and it will be easy to find. Okay, next we want to set the width of the column B to exactly 1.4 inches. So you might not be on inches, you might be on centimeters, but if you're on inches, you can go click here, right click, column width. And then we just type in 1.4. And it's been set to exactly 1.4 inches. Most of the time it doesn't matter, you don't want to set it exactly, you can just click and drag. Anyway, it's the same for Excel. I'm wondering, can I easily change the units? Let's click on Tools Options to find out. Down to Libre Calc. And we go to Measurement Unit. And over here we can set it to centimeter. If you're on Excel and you want to change the units, you just click on File and then Options and then Advanced. And then scroll down to Display and you will see ruler units. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Next, we're going to go on with step 3. In column B, use the data from the file listofallstudents.csv to look up the name of the student with the student ID written in A3. So we want to use this student ID to go to this file, all students, and look up the name. We already have a hint, we want to use VLOOKUP. And if we're on LibreOffice, make sure that external content is enabled. Let's have a look. So I have them both open. Let's open them side by side to make it just a little bit easier. I'm just going to click and drag and move it all the way to the right hand side and do the same with the other. And I'm going to use VLOOKUP over here. So I'm just going to type equals VLOOKUP, and we're going to help the search criterion is the value we're looking for in the first column. So that's the value we're going to look up. Next, we're going to look at the array index. And the array index is going to be this table. But we only need the first two columns. So just to be a bit lazy, I'm going to click, hold down Shift, and click again to select the first two columns. This is actually better because if ever anybody adds students down in the bottom of the table, they'll automatically be included in our VLOOKUP if this table changes. Next, we press comma again. I don't want the value in the first column, I want the value in the second column. So I'm going to choose 2. And finally, sorted range lookup. Are we looking for a precise value? If yes, put 0. And here I have an error. This doesn't happen in Excel, which is another reason why I recommend using it. Stuff like this sometimes happens in Excel too, but it seems to happen more often in LibreOffice. And it's not a big deal because you can easily look it up and find out what's going on. But the exam is going to be offline for obvious reasons. So you won't be able to use online help in the exam. So let me tell you how to solve it in this case. To solve it, you just close it and open it again. Click on Allow Updating. And there we have the value. So now notice that when I put this in, it automatically added $signs here. If there are no $signs there, you'd better put them in yourself. Because what we're going to do next is we're going to copy this downward. I can just do that in multiple ways. I can just select, press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Or I can just find this little dot here and click and drag. Or I can just double click on this little dot. This is true for both Excel and LibreOffice. And as you can see, it looks up the name for each student. Let's have a quick spot check. 102350 should be Rodney Cox. 2350, Rodney Cox. That's right. So it seems to be working. Okay, next question. Copy and paste, we just did it. We may get as many as 100 students. Copy the formula even further down to row 100. That should be easy too. And copy. We get an error message. The error message is obvious because we have no value here. So it's looking up a student with no student number and it says I cannot find anything. That's what this NA means. So it's working. It's a bit ugly, but it's working. Next, we want to make sure that we cannot accept any more students. So we're going to color in rows 101 and higher to gray, like this. I'm going to select row 101 and I'm just going to hold down Control and Shift and press the down arrow. And then up here, it's similar but not exactly the same in Excel. But I'm sure you'll be able to find the fill button in Excel. I have to wait a bit because it's actually quite a lot of cells it's coloring in. And finally, it's colored in. I'm going to click over here and hold down Control and press the Up key to jump all the way back to the top. So that's a nice hint, by the way. If you like using the keyboard, just hold down the Control key and use the arrows to jump to the edge, to the ends of the screen and to the edges of the tables. Student with ID number 12547 to row 81. Let's see who that is. Oh, it's Bailey Harrison. I used copy paste and it messed up the formatting, so I'm just gonna go find this brush. I'm gonna go to this cell where I like the formatting, find this brush and click over here. This brush is quite useful. It just clones formatting and you have it in Excel too. I'm sure you'll be able to find where it is without my help. Okay, next question. We want to avoid showing this error. So instead of this error, we want this dash because this error looks a bit ugly. So how are we going to do it? It gives us a hint. There's different ways to do it, but we get a hint. We can use the if function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the very first function and I'm going to modify this one. So we have this text. I'm going to select it, cut it, copy over here for safekeeping. I'm going to paste it back later. You can skip that step if you're confident, but I'm just going to make it a bit more clear what I'm doing. I'm going to do if here. If, open brackets. Remember, if we want a condition. So the first condition is, well, the only condition in this case is if the value in A3 is equal to, always use quotation marks when it comes to text. And here we're saying if it's two quotation marks with nothing in between, it means if it's an empty text, then in that case, put in the value dash, or in all other cases, the otherwise value, for now I'm just going to write the student, close brackets. And I'm going to test to see if it's working. So let's copy it all the way down. Right, it's working. It's showing student in case there is a student number there, and it's showing a dash in case there's no student number there. So now we want to replace this student with the formula we had before. So I'm going to just select this formula and I'm going to press Ctrl X, and now here we go. And I want to replace all of that, all of what's written here, student, with that formula. Be careful for the bracket. Ctrl V. So now, in summary, if the cell is empty, we show a dash. In all other cases, we do this VLOOKUP thingy. And I'm going to copy it down to test it. There we go. So very good. Next, we're going to move on with step 4. Step 4 is mostly about validation and protection. So pause the video here and get started. I'll wait patiently while you try your exercise. Okay, welcome back. Let's have a look at the solution together. So we have these assistants, so we want to minimize the chance that they're going to make mistakes on our sheet. So we're going to add some validation and some protection. So first of all, we have cells C1 up to I1, and we only want to allow dates from this quarter. So how do we do it? C1 to I1. Select the whole thing, and then go to Data, Validity. And over here, we want to allow only date values. And we want to only allow dates within a certain range. And the minimum, so over here it's a bit annoying because it's in American format, it's month, day, year. So I'm gonna do it like that, month, day, year. 0101 2022. And the maximum possible value will be March the 31st. So that will be 03 31 2022. And click on OK. Now let's try. The 31st of December 2021. I get an error message. Perfect. Now let's try the 1st of April 2022. I get an error message. Perfect. But what about the 15th of February? It works. Great. So that's good. It's working, but we have still some work to do. We want to provide an error message. And we go input help. And we may as well add some help over here. And the error alert is stop. Stop means I won't let you input anything. I could also put a warning, which means I'll let you input it, but you're going to get a warning that you put in something invalid. And information is just the same as warning, but it's a little bit less drastic. We can also put in a macro, but we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so we click on stop, and the title is error. Here we have an explanation. Please input a date from 2022 for quarter 2 results. See the other file. Okay. Now when we select it, we get this help. And when we put in the wrong date, we get this error message. Okay. Next, we only want to allow 3 possible values in the type of test. So select them, data, validity, list, if you're feeling lazy, you just use list and you put all possible values here, like test, project work, and what was the other one? Homework. That'll work too. But I'm going to add another sheet and here put settings. And I'm going to write here possible evaluation types. And I'm going to write test, homework, project work. Data, validity, cell range, select other sheet, and I'm gonna select these values. And I click on OK. So as you can see, I can only input test. If I try to put in something else, I get an error message. So I click here, this is a formatting I like. Click on the brush and then select them all. And it just magically brushes. And now the advantage of doing it like this is I can add another one if I want. And when I add it over here, it appears magically over here. What next? I forgot to put in an error message. Click, select, validity, input help, I'll skip it for now. Stop. Okay, let's move on with protection. We want to only allow assistants to edit first certain cells and not mess up the general structure of a sheet. So we want to basically lock the first two columns and we want to lock rows 101 and higher. So what you do, it's not that intuitive. You don't lock some cells, but you lock the entire sheet and you only allow unlocked what students should be allowed to edit. So we should only select those cells which we want the assistants to be allowed to edit. So we click on C1, scroll all the way down to C100, hold down Shift and click, and now I'm going to press Control, Shift, arrow to the right, and that selects this entire range. I go to right click, Format Cells. Remember, there's all sorts of things we can format here. We can even change the alignment and change the angle of the text and all the font options are here too. But what we're really interested in is the cell protection. And I want to say these cells which are selected now, I remain unprotected. Click on OK. There we go. Now, Tools, Protect Sheet, put in a password, and click on OK. So now when I try to change this value, I get an error message. When I change this value, it works. In Excel, it's exactly the same workflow. In other words, you want to select the cells that should be unprotected and right-click and format and change the protection properties and then protect the whole sheet. You can find the Protect button under Review. Incidentally, I can also protect the spreadsheet structure. If I do that, I can't add any more sheets or delete sheets. If I want to protect the entire workbook, it's not really possible using Libre, but you have to just encrypt the entire file using a different utility software for that. In Excel, it's easy. You just go to File, Info, select the Protect Workbook box, and choose Encrypt with Password. That's another reason why I say better to use Excel, because in Excel it's easy. while in LibreOffice you can do it just fine, but you just have to use an encryption software to do it. Which is completely fine if you're using this software at home, but of course if you're in the middle of an exam, it's just one more complication. So for the exam, I recommend Excel. The syllabus is written with Excel in mind, but at home or for personal use, I recommend LibreOffice. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It's straightforward. We just want to enter this data over here. So this is really boring. Just do it. That's why I only have these few data, because I don't want to just spend the whole day inputting data. That's what the assistants are for. But we're just going to put some dummy data down here just to test it. So it's also not that important to copy down these values exactly. Just put in some fake values and put in these dates and these evaluation types. Let me just go and show you the first one. Here we have 0.25. And then I'm going to click up here on percentage, and I'm going to decrease the number of decimals. And we want to do the same thing for the rest of these. We also want the date format to be day, month, year. So to put the format of these dates, day, month, year, we just do it in the same way. You select, right click, format cells, numbers, and we've got a date. We want it not like this, we want it like this. Like this. And I'm going to use my brush again to brush the other cells as well. Okay, next is step 6. We want to merge the cells in J1 to L1, and we want to use, you have to use average if to calculate the average score for the homeworks, the average score for the tests, and the average score for the projects. So, do it. Pause the video here, and once you've given it your best shot, or once you're finished, let's have a look at the solution together in a moment. Okay, are you ready to have a look at the solution together? Let's go. Here we are. We want to add projects, tests, and homeworks. Projects, tests, homeworks. And now we're going to go here and type result. And I select them all and press Ctrl B. Again, we want the result for the projects. So I'm going to say equals average if, open brackets, the range. This is the range of where the criteria will be. And we want these ones, because here we can tell if it's a homework, a test, or project work. Next, we want the criteria. Right now we're looking for the average of projects, so we want it to be project work. Since it's text, we have to use quotation marks. And then we want to calculate the average range. So this is not where the condition is, but the condition of the values for which we're going to calculate the range, which in this case is here. And then I'm gonna close brackets. And I see we have a nice value of 65%, 67%. Let's just put it in the right format. And let's see, project work, 82% and 50%. That's right, that sounds about right. Okay, let's copy it down. And we see a huge problem. What happened? Do you know? I know. The problem is, if I click in it, blue one is scrolled down with the function, but we want that one to stick fixed, right? So we're gonna just go and find the blue one, which was range. Press F4 to add dollar signs, and then there we go. Let's do another spot check. 52%. Project work, 45, 68. That's about right. Okay, now let's copy them to the right as well. Is that going to work? No, it's not going to work. You know why? Because it's going to move the range to the right. As you can see, this red one moved to the right. We don't want that one to move to the right. But what we can do is fix only the columns, but don't fix the rows. So we go like this. Keep pressing F4 until there's a dollar sign in front of only the letter. And now we copy it to the right. And then don't forget we have to change here from project work to test. Copy it down. And from project work to homework. Copy it down. There we go. And that's it for step 6. Okay, step 7. Create a new sheet named settings. We already have this one. And remember, you can just click on this plus here. Add the table's weightings and grade boundaries shown below. Okay, use the table to calculate the weighted average. In fact, let me just update this so it's a bit easier to understand. Use the table to calculate the weighted average. Okay, here we go. In the original sheet, we want to add a column called weighted average and use the table weightings to calculate the weighting average for each student. So pause the video, give it your best shot, and I'm going to see you in a moment. So here we go. We're going to add another column called weighted average. And go back to the settings, sheet, and define the weightings. Okay, so now that I've input all this data, we're going to go back here and we're going to calculate the weighted average. So we have the average for projects, and we're going to multiply it by the weighting, and then we're going to add the average for tests, and we're going to multiply it by the weighting, and then we're going to add the average of homeworks, and we're going to multiply it by the weighting, and then we're going to divide it by the sum of all the weightings. So let's see, equals projects multiplied by projects plus tests multiplied by tests plus homeworks multiplied by homeworks plus exam multiplied by exam. Don't forget all these dollar signs. And take all of that. I'm going to open brackets here, jump all the way to the end, and close brackets, divided by sum of all of these. The sum of all the weightings. Make sure it's absolute addressing. There we go. Let's put the format to format. Okay, here we go. That's the weighted average. Very good. Now we have the weighted average. We're going to use the weighted average to determine the grade. Here we have a grade boundaries, and this is using VLOOKUP 2. But remember, we don't have a precise value. 30% will not match up. Okay, bad example. 63% will not match up exactly with the grade boundary, but we know it's between 60% and 70%, and that's where we get a B in the end. we're looking up this. We want to find our table. That's our table. And we want index number 2. And we want to be a sorted range. So we want to put in 1 or true. Right, it works. If I put false here, it will give me an error message. It gives me an error message because it's looking for the exact value 63%, but the exact value 63% is not in this table. So we make sure this is a 1. That's an E, but don't forget, Rodney was absent in the exam. And now something is wrong here. I wonder what's wrong. I think I know. Forgot the stupid dollar signs. So let's fix it. Better. Okay, let's do a quick spot check. 46% is a D. That's right, 46% is a D. Perfect. Next question. We want to use try on. Rodney Palmer was sick on the day of the exam. What does he need to score in his exam to get an A? So we will use try on error in this. So let's ask ourselves the question, what if he got 70% on the exam? He gets 65%, which is approximately a B. So we need more, right? So let's see, what if we got 75%? Still a B. How about 80%? Yeah, that's an A. How about 79%? Oh, wow, it's almost exactly. How about 79.5%? Right, something around 79.5%. So we can use try and error to make a pretty good estimate, pretty accurate estimate of what he would need. But guess what? There's also a formula which we can use to do that, which we'll talk about in the next question. Use goal-seek to figure out exactly what score he needs on his final exam to get an A. So to do that, I just put in a dummy value here, like 1%. Now I'm going to go to Tools, Goal-seek. This is exactly the same in Excel, by the way. You just need to go to Data, What If Analysis, and then Goal-seek, and you'll find the exact same window. We've got Formula Cell, which is a cell which contains the formula or the result, and it's this one. And we want, what was it? We want 70% to get an A. So we put in here 70%. And now we select the variable cell, which cell we need to change to end up with 70%. And that's this one, J3. And then I'm going to click on OK. And I get the message, goal-seek succeeded, result 79%. Insert the variable in the cell, yes. And as we can see, it's not just 79.5, what we learned before, but it's exactly 79.33326, etc. We can use goal-seek to very easily find the exact value without any trial and error. Okay, let's move on with the next exercise. In step 8, we want to use conditional formatting to highlight the row of all students who scored an E in red. In other words, anybody who scores an E gets highlighted red. I have to pay attention to those students and help them out extra. Then also I want to add a function that I can easily find a student by student number. So I'm going to add conditional formatting to all these cells down here so that I can input the student number I need and it will just highlight the student I'm looking for. So pause the video here, give it your best shot. Good luck. Are you ready for the solution? Let's go. Okay, conditional formatting. First of all, I have to unprotect this sheet. I'm going to go first to Tools and select Protect Sheet. And it's going to ask for the password. And I'm going to put in the password, which was Heritage, if you remember. Okay, what I'm going to do now, first of all, I want to select the row, and I'm going to go to Format, Conditional Formatting, Condition. And here we can add our very first condition. If you're on Excel, by the way, you can do the same thing by Home, Conditional Formatting, and then pick New Rule. Anyway, I'm going to add a condition. In this case, we want to use a formula to determine which cells to format. I'm going to use formula is. And if you're on Excel, you can use the same formula as this one. We want O3 is equal to E. Only in that case do something. Now I'm going to choose the format I like. And I can pick error, which is red with white text. Or if I want to make my own, I click on New Style. And when I click on New Style, I give it a name. I'm going to call it My Style, which is a very unoriginal name, but whatever. And then I'm going to go to background, and I'm going to pick a background which is a nice red. Not too bright, because it's going to hurt my eyes. Something like this. And click on OK. You can also change the font here if you want, but I'm just going to click on OK, and I'm going to click on OK again. And now, I've only done it for this one, so let me test it. No, it doesn't work. You see it works, but only this one got formatted. Okay, first of all, let me press Ctrl Z so I don't lose that formula. I'm going to select this whole thing again, and if you make a mistake, no worries. Go back to Format, and then you go back to Conditional Format, and then you go to Manage. If you're on Excel, you do the same thing. You go to Conditional Formatting, and you just click on Manage. And I'm going to edit this rule. And my problem is that I should have put O with a $sign, because the value in B is looking for P. So the formatting in B depends on P. I'm just going to add a $sign so it doesn't shift up this formula. Okay, now I want to put a dollar in front of 3, because when I copy this formatting down, I do want it to follow me. Now I'm going to click on OK, see if it works. And OK again. I'm going to test it. Yeah, it works. Press Ctrl Z so I don't lose that formula. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to brush the formatting to the other ones too. Oh, I misclicked. Okay, next we want to easily be able to find the student number 102106. I'm just going to select all these cells, and I'm going to do the same thing, Format, Conditional, Manage, and now I'm going to add a range with only one condition. A3 equals. Okay, now I've done it for A3, and I'm going to copy it down for all the rest. And is it going to work? No, it doesn't work. I actually knew that was going to happen. Let's test it for 2115. It doesn't work. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because I made the same mistake again. Format, Conditional Format, Manage. Anybody sees the mistake I made? Column, and it's only the first 100 cells. The mistake is I didn't put in dollar signs over here. So I want to add a dollar sign over here. Then it should work. Right. Let's do another test. 1, 1, 2, 3. Right. How about 2, 1, 8, 9? Who is 2189? It's Keith. And there we have it. Okay, next we're going to make this table which counts the number of students that got an A, a B, a C, a D, and an E. And now we're going to use that information to calculate the proportion they got an A, a B, a C, and a D. And then we're going to use that to make this graph which shows our grade distribution. So, good luck. See you soon. Welcome back. So first of all, we're going to go to settings and create this table. That's the easy part, right? Grade distribution. U. And now it's the same in Excel. We just use the function count if. Count if we want the range. The range is this one. Or I can just select the whole column. And then the criteria is this one. And let's close brackets. We just don't have any A students. Yeah, it works. Okay, don't worry, it works. I'm gonna just copy it down now. Remember, I selected the whole column, so I don't need to worry about these dollar signs. And next, let's just do a quick spot check. B should have 3. We got 3 B students. 1, 2, perfect. How about E students? 2 of them. That's right. Okay. Now let's calculate the proportion of the students. So to calculate what percent got an A student, first we need to know the total number of students. So we're just going to go here and type sum and go up like that. And let's bold it. And just put some borders just so that we can see at a glance that it's a sum. And now to calculate the average will be easy. We just take the A value divided by the sum and press F4 to add the dollar signs. And then copy, paste, and add these percentages. There we go. And now what we want to do is we want to add a graph. So to add a graph, it's almost exactly the same in LibreOffice as Excel. We select the whole table, you go to Insert, Chart. And I want a column chart. And I want this range, it looks about right. But when it comes to series, I don't want this one, I only want the proportions. So let's remove column B. Remove that. Column C, I'll keep. Let's look at the instructions. X-axis grade, Y-axis percentage of students. No legend, data labels, no spacing between columns. Oh, and we also have grade distribution as a title. I don't want a legend. And then finish. Now I have this. If I click somewhere else, I can select and drag to move it around. If I want to edit it, I double click on it. So now I'm in editing mode again. So remember, sometimes if we try to move it straight away, it gets confusing. If you do that, just press Ctrl Z, click away, then you can move the graph. If you want to edit the graph, double click on it. And then you can edit the individual elements of the graph. It's the same in Excel. Okay, what was it that we wanted to do? We wanted to add data labels. So let's click on this component, right click, format data series, no, insert data labels. Good. Now, if we want to format them, we can click on them, right click, format data labels. And here I can add font and whatever. We also wanted to remove the gap here. So I've selected the individual one. So let's click away and click back on the data series, right click, format data series. And where was it? Options, spacing, down to 0%. Okay. I don't like that this line is just crossing through this 33%, so I'm going to change the scale a little bit. Format axis a bit, change the maximum to like, I don't know, 40% rather. Well, it's still, but it's better than before. Okay, I could actually just remove these grid lines, that would be better. Format the wall. No, I think that's not here. So sometimes it takes a little bit of figuring out. Format major grid. Sometimes it takes a bit of trial and error to find out where each option is. That's why it's a good idea to get practice drawing different graphs before the exam, so you don't have to figure it, so you know most of the things before the exam and you won't have to figure it out during the exam. Let's change the color actually. I don't like the color. I want a much nicer color, like not too bright, like this. And if I wanted to highlight one of them, for example, I'm mostly interested in how many B's, I can give that one its own color. Like a darker blue. Anyway, that wasn't even in the question, so I'm just gonna press Ctrl Z. What else do we have? Okay, one of the assistants thinks it would be fair to give a higher weighting to projects, and he says we give 40% weighting to projects and 30% for the exam. So how will this affect the grade distribution? Let's have a look. We can easily change it. So this is what's called a what if question. So we just say, what if we had a different grade distribution? So as you can see, changing the weightings in this way decreases the number of A's, but it also decreases the number of E's. But the main point is that we can easily at a glance see how changing these weightings affects the distributed outcome of grades. That spreadsheets allow us to do this is a very powerful feature of spreadsheets. Okay, next we're going to talk about print layouts. This is a bit different on Excel and LibreOffice, but either way, give it your best shot. I'm going to continue on LibreOffice and I'm going to give you some hints on what to do if you're on Excel. But either way, it's not so hard, so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find the solution. Okay, are you ready to follow the solution? Let's go. We want to create a PDF, and first of all, we want to set the page to A4 and to landscape. In LibreOffice, we can do that. Format, page. And here we have currently letter format, and I'm going to set it to A4. And I'm also going to set it to landscape. You can also change the margins. Remember, I'm in centimeters, but if you need to go back to inches, remember, you can go to Tools, Options, and then go to here, inch. We also have these dotted lines. This shows the page borders, where they are now. If you're on Excel, you just go to the Page Layout tab, and there you can find Landscape, and you can also find Size. So we want to set the margins to 5 inches. In Excel, it's also on the Page Layout. You can set the margin to 5 inches. And now we want to add a header that puts the page number on the top left. And on the top right, we want to set the path and the file name. Once again, we go to Format, Page, and here we have header. We can do the same with footer as well. And I'm going to click on Edit. And what was it on the top left? We want page number. We can find the page number over here. Then we want on the top right, we want the path and the file name. So this we can remove. And then on the top right, path and file name. Okay. Now when I go to File, Print Preview, I see that I have the page number here and here, and I also have the page number in the bottom. So let's remove this page number at the bottom because it's a bit extra. So I just go to Footer, click on Edit, and remove this footer. Click OK. And let's go back to Print Preview, and we see we have no footer there. If you're on Excel and you want to insert a header, you just click on the Insert tab and you can find header and footer over there. In addition to Print Preview and these page break lines, there's another really useful view where we can click on View, Page Break. It's the same in Excel, just click on the View tab and click on Page Break View, and we can see where the page break are and we can move them. So for example, like this, now we have page 1, page 2, and page 3. Whatever's gray is not going to be printed at all. So if we want to set the area that should be printed, you can click and select the region, and then you go to Print Ranges, and then click on Define. And now, if I do this, it's going to print only this page. I can add additional regions. If I go down here and I go to Format, Print Ranges, Add. Let's see what happens now. We got 2 pages. The first one was the first range and the second one was the second range. If you want to set a print range in Excel, that's possible too. You just have to go to Page Layout and then go to Print Area. And finally, we want to export to PDF, which we have a very easy button over here. Or you can go to File, Export as PDF. And it's that easy. To export to PDF in Excel is really easy. You just click on File, Export, and then export it as PDF file. Okay, good job. We only have one more exercise left, and that is to open your students.csv file, and then we're going to answer a bunch of questions. We're also going to create a pivot table. Okay, pause the video. See you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. Here on the left-hand side, we have a list of all the students. And here we have the question. So the first question is, how many are women? That's an easy one, right? So I'm going to just add a filter data, auto filter. And I'm gonna choose here female. So what you may not know is that you can select all these values. And down here, both in Excel and LibreOffice, I can say what I want to see. And I want to see a count. In fact, in Excel, it's going to count it. But in LibreOffice, it doesn't count it unless it's a number. But that's okay. I'm just going to count the year range instead. $263. So we have 263 female students. Another way I could do it, which is a bit more complicated way, is insert a column and then just saying equals if that is equal to female, then output 1, and otherwise output 0, and then I'm going to copy it down and I'm going to just sum the values. $263, same as we got before. So which way you prefer is up to you. I prefer using a simple filter because it's a bit faster. Okay, next question. How many students are in the night school? Here we got 1 for night school and 0 for not night school. So this is even easier than before. We just filter them again and we just count them. This time it is a number, so it's gonna work in LibreOffice. In Excel it would work either way. Count 245. We should have 245 students in the night school. Okay, how many students were born on a Monday? This one is a bit more tricky. Let's add a new column and say born on, and we're just gonna calculate it. So we're gonna use the weekday function. Two would be a Monday, right? Okay, just to be sure, let's test it. Let's say today is the 14th of March and it's a Monday. So let's put in the 14th of March over here. And then we're going to use weekday. Just to make sure, yeah, Monday. 2 is Monday. Sunday is the first day of the week according to LibreOffice and Excel 2. Monday is the second day of the week. So now I'm going to filter it again. Data, auto filter, and I only want to see Mondays. And I'm going to count it. And the answer is 75. So 75 of my students were born on a Monday. How many students were born in September? Basically solve it in the same way. What is this September? The 9th month. "45 of our students were born in September." How many students have been enrolled since 2017 and have still not completed any modules? Okay, that's not too hard. We want 2017. We want to get rid of this filter. And we want 0 modules completed. is 6. Okay, next question. How many students have completed 4 or more modules? Back to enrollment and remove the filter. Now we'll go to modules. We're going to use a more advanced filter. The number of modules completed. And we want it to be more than or equal to 4. Let's count them. 328. Okay, now we got a tricky one. Okay, let's remove this filter because it's messing with my brain. And let's go and say only the first name. And how are we gonna do this? In fact, I'm just gonna add a free page so that we can see them next to each other. I want the first name. And in this case, we know that Jason has 5 letters in his name. So if we do something like this in his first name of Jason Walker, and we take the first 5 letters, we get his first name. But if we copy it down, obviously, it's not going to work for all of them. So what we really need to do is figure out where the spacebar is. We can use another function, find. What's the text we want to find? So we want to find the spacebar. And in which position? What is the text we want to look in? It's found here in B2. And what's the starting position? That's not relevant for us. Leave that blank because we want to start from the start. Oh, it's in a date format. We don't want it in a date format. So here we go. 6. Right, so now we know where the space is. Then we use left. Let's just cut this, in fact, put it over here. Left. And then we want this text. And what do we want? We want find, this function. Let's see if that works for all the first names. Seems to work pretty good. Okay, next we want the family name or the second name. And we need to know how long this family name is. So we can find the length . Oh, excuse me. Altogether, it's 12 long. We only want the last 6 in this case. So we know that length minus this part, which is the position of where the space is. And we found the position of the space before using this function. Okay, now we have a function that gives us the length of the surname only. The next step is to combine it with the right function to pick out the rightmost letters of the text in this cell. And it works. Let's see if it works for the others too. Yep, it seems to work. So that's it for this one. Questions like these can be quite tricky and it's not always obvious what you have to do, but don't worry, that's why we practice, and the more you practice, the better you get at solving them. So anyway, let's move on with the next question. How many students are older than 50? Let's make another column called age. We know the date of birth. Just gonna maximize this for a bit. We know the date of birth and we know today's date. So we've got today's date, but we're not really interested in the months and the days, so we only want the year of today's date. And we want to subtract the year of the date of birth. And that will give the age. Okay, that's a pretty good estimate of the age of the student. It's not actually a precise calculation because we don't know if the student has already had their birthday this year. If so, we're probably going to need to increase the age by 1. And we can add a simple if function to the equation if we want to, but honestly I'm a bit tired, so I'm just going to leave it good enough like this, which means I won't get full points, but I will get partial credit. Next, we're going to create a pivot table. So to create a pivot table, you just put the cursor somewhere in the data you want to insert a pivot table of, and you go to Insert, Pivot Table. And it makes the selection for you. In fact, you'd better double check it because it doesn't always make sense what they choose, but this is fine. Or do I need the age? I will need the age, so this is not fine. Let's just delete this. And I'm just going to select the whole table using Control and Shift and the arrow keys. Insert Pivot Table using the current selection. And what was it that I wanted? I want to filter the student. I want gender in the rows, night school in the columns, and I want to calculate the average age. And here I have the average age for female day school students, male day school students, and female night school students, and male night school students. And I can look up individual students if I want. There we go. So that was the very last exercise. Thanks for watching. I hope you tried them all. I hope you tried them all independently. Don't worry if you didn't get them all. Many of them were pretty tough, so I don't expect you to have gotten all of them. The main thing is that you were thinking about it, that you didn't just follow it passively. And remember, the main thing is that you learn, not that you... Learning can feel a bit uncomfortable sometimes. Learning can be frustrating sometimes, but the main thing is that if you stick with it, you're sure to get better and better. So next, I recommend, after having completed these 11 steps, pretty sure you're ready for start practicing past papers. Good luck on your exam. See you later. Bye bye. Have a good day.